Hello, and welcome to Talk Relationship to Me, the show that explores some of the most important relationship topics. I'm Dr. Elana Hoffman. As a clinical psychologist, I focus on all things relationships, from dating to sex to long-term relationships to divorce. I cover it all. I use my professional lens as a psychologist as well as lived experience to cover these topics. Do you need to talk relationships? You're in the right place. On today's episode, I am joined by Mediator and co-parenting coach, Nora Marcus. Nora, thank you so much for coming on the show.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so we were connected through a mutual friend / divorce professional.
Yeah.
And so it's so nice to have professionals in the divorce space talking about all things divorce. And so, today we wanted to talk about some of the challenges during this process and how people can kind of best get through it. And, just to really highlight like how important it is for people to get through it in a way that is as sort of grounded and healthy as possible. And it's a conversation that really a lot of people don't have. And I've had several people on this podcast talk about it, but I really feel like every conversation is important and unique because the message of like how difficult it is and how much power and growth and learning is involved in the process, like can't be talked about enough. So I'm just going to keep talking about it.
It definitely cannot be talked about enough. And, it's interesting because the way we got connected through a mutual friend and colleague who is also trying to do this very thing, right? Which is to say to release actually a lot of the shame and stigma around divorce.
Totally. I'm looking for her book. I had her on another episode.
Yeah.
The financial planner.
Melissa Murphy.
Melissa Murphy. Yep. Her Divorce by Design.
Yeah, she's amazing. And, she connected us because she knew that we both had such similar ideology and we were working from a similar place to help the people involved so they can make better decisions for themselves, which also impacts their kids. But even just talking about it releases some of the shame, because I actually think that at the very core of it, in the base of it, when you're entering into a divorce, most people feel like they have failed at something.
Yes. Totally.
And so they're very resistant to talk about their very complicated experience to reach the point where they're like, the marriage is over, either one or both parties. And then they have usually parties in tow with them, which are their kids, unwilling participants in a divorce, right? And so releasing the shame and stigma to know, or for even if one person listens to this and I could say to them, or you could say to them, you didn't do anything wrong. You didn't fail.
Yeah.
Some relationships are not meant for the long haul. That's okay.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah. It is so important because, people are, they're sort of, the shame keeps people from getting not even the help that they need. And obviously I talk about that as a psychologist, and, but also just the connection and support of other people that have also experienced this and how important that can be with just that, right? Like being understood. I had someone in my divorce group the other day, last time we met, be like, I know that 50% of people are divorced, but like, where are they? And she was kind of saying like, I hear this statistic, but like everyone in me is married and I feel like the one that isn't. And I feel like the odd man out and I feel all this shame. It's like, where are these people? And then funnily enough, like a few days later, I was in a workout class and like the woman next to me is also divorced. And it's like, once you start like talking about it or like you name something, like there was something where we looked at each other and we were like, oh, you're also divorced. And it's like, you can find the people,
Right. But you have to talk about it to find the people. You have to own your experience to find the people. And it can be very isolating.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. Even though there's so many people going through it, it's still really isolating. And sometimes your like social media feed is like all people like on their happy vacations and, their marriages. And it can be really hard to filter that out so you can focus on what you have to do, which is walk your kids through, right?
Yeah.
This major transition. And we had discussed this, but the fact that you're being asked to make these enormous decisions, and a lot of them are right out the gate. So, like, there could be a really short time
Yeah.
from when you're saying, okay, the marriage is over, we're going to proceed with a divorce. And suddenly you've not really thought about your process options,
Yeah.
right? How are you going to move through the divorce? You're going to mediate, you're going to collaborative divorce, you're going to litigate,
Yeah.
hopefully not litigate and go to court, which is like the worst option for anybody listening. Don't
Yeah.
do it. And
Yeah.
so you're in a crisis, right? You could speak to, as well as I could as a social worker, well, what's happening to your nervous system? So suddenly you're thrown into this, even if you know the divorce is the right choice for your family holistically, suddenly your nervous system is completely offline and you're thrown into making major, major decisions that are going to impact the rest of your life and your kids' lives. Um, and all the while you have to keep like getting up and packing school lunches and going to class plays and like going to field day or whatever it is that you have to do.
Yeah, and, like,
Right.
working, like, do it, whatever else you do, it's like it asks
Mhm.
so much of you,
Yeah.
and I think it's really people don't realize how much is being asked of people in the process because, yes, you have to do all those things, and you have to stay somewhat regulated and sane in order to be able to do those things well, to, like, make some kind of decision that you're not gonna totally regret later, to
Mhm.
not lose your shit on your kids or your mom or
Or
whatever,
your boss.
boss or a colleague or
Yeah.
someone dating or a friend or whatever it is. It just asks, like, and so I think that people who have really been through it are like, there's an opportunity for strength and growth, and people who've gone through it are like, are really strong, for because it asks so much of you. The process asks so much of you, and it is
Yeah.
a unique process that doesn't get talked about enough, how unique it is. And yeah,
Yeah. I say to every client that I have that there is no part of your life that divorce doesn't touch.
totally.
Every single facet of your life is impacted by your divorce.
Yeah.
I spoke to a company a while back and we were talking about some really jarring statistics about the lack of productivity for people going through divorce. They miss more days than during sickness, death, moving, major illnesses, and surgeries. An active divorce is when people who are in the active divorce are missing. It's their least productive time. They're missing the most days of work. And it really actually, so it's like, not only does it impact you, it's impacting people around you, it's impacting your workplace, your kids, whatever. And so
Totally.
one of the
That's
things I think that's hardest to do is to know when you really are needing the help, right? Which I think this is why a lot of people don't get help because they don't talk about it, but they don't even know when they need it because there's just so much going on. You can't really stop or
yeah,
check in
yeah,
with yourself to be like, "Oh my gosh, I'm really having a hard time making decisions," or "My kids are suffering too. They also need support. I don't even know where to get it."
yeah,
Right?
yeah,
What to do? How do I find skilled professionals that are actually aware and well versed in life transitions,
yeah,
specifically divorce,
yeah,
right?
yes,
And it feels very much like a recipe for disaster in a time that you need to be almost the most focused you've ever been,
totally. Yeah, for sure.
right? I mean, people are suffering,
Yeah,
and sometimes I don't think that they need to. Not that you can take the pain away, not that you can take the grief away, right? But people, it doesn't need to be as hard as it is.
totally. Yeah, like, something that's painful doesn't have to be turned into suffering, right? Like, it's
Mhm.
painful as it is, right? And so, like, all these things that you're saying on top of it, can make a already difficult situation so much harder. And when people feel like they're failing, they're doing something wrong, things are falling apart and it's on them, that like they just don't, it's so hard to be
Yeah.
who you need to be to kind of, to get through it and to make decisions that are, the best for your future. And it's also asking something that it's sometimes impossible to like predict the future of like your you're working out stuff that you have no idea. It could change tomorrow, it could change in a year, it could change in 5 years, 10 years. Everything changes all the time. Your kids change, you change, the world
Mhm.
changes, obviously, and so you can't plan for everything. And,
Mhm. You
people feel very out of control during this time. And so they want to control everything and they want to figure everything out and they want to know the future and they want to predict the future and have everything spelled out. And it just, life does not work like that.
No, it's like that feeling of like you're furiously treading water,
Mhm.
right? And you don't want to go under. And that's, I think, what it feels like inside for most people. And they're relying on the professionals around them to guide them. And sometimes those very professionals you can feel pressure, right? Or you're reaching out to places like your kid's school, but they could be so well meaning, but they don't have staff there for the most part that are specially trained in supporting families through divorce. So it's like you're frantically looking. It's why I bring up that analogy of drowning. It's like, oh my God, I'm frantically looking for help because this feels out of control. You're in the waves, you can't breathe, like you're bobbing up and down. It's a horrible, horrible feeling. And you have to come home and
Yeah.
you have to make dinner,
Yep.
right? And so if we're talking about families, right? Because I always tell people you're still going to be a family when you're hearing all the noise. And I don't know when you're working with clients or you're helping people, but when we're hearing that noise or we're helping clients to like sort of sift through the noise, like I I always want people to like have like a piece of advice to grab onto or something to be like, oh, this is one way or a tool that they can use to be like, oh my gosh, I am so overwhelmed that I can't make decisions
Yeah.
right now,
Yeah.
right? And to find the right help to do that because I think it's one of the biggest roadblocks because then people end up making legal decisions,
Yeah.
whether in a mediation, a collaborative, et cetera, that they then regret. They're like, I felt pressured. And a lot of times they're pressured from the outside,
Yeah.
could be from well-meaning friends, family, et cetera,
Yeah.
your neighbor down the street who got more money in a settlement or whatever it is, but that's
Yeah.
not your life.
Right. Right.
That
Right.
pressure is sometimes but from themselves too. They just want to get out of the pain. So they
They
want
just want it to be done. Right. They just want it to be done. It's
yeah.
really hard. You're asking to negotiate with someone who, like, you're asking two people who are like dissolving their marriage to be reasonable and accommodating. And like it's so hard because like clearly, I mean, that's a hard thing with those two people, presumably. Not always, obviously. I mean, there are amicable divorces, and like there's, I mean, there's a lot of different, but it's asking something that's very difficult and obviously super emotional. And so it's like there's, that of it too. And so I think it's just, for all these reasons, like people just need whatever the support looks like, but part of it is really kind of destigmatizing and deshaming this process because it's like you said, it's not everything is meant to last forever and it is okay and you can have a good divorce and then you can have it's like the start of something else, sort of the flip side of all this. Like once you get through it, it's like you can do it well.
Mm.
But in order to do it well, you have to take care of yourself. Like doing it well doesn't mean like getting it done fast. It doesn't mean giving into everything. It also doesn't mean dying on every hill. Certainly, it just means doing it in a way that preserves like your kids. And it's not divorce that's bad. It's a bad divorce that's bad for your kids, right? Everything.
1,000%. Yes,
Yeah.
right. Divorce doesn't harm kids, but a bad divorce and bad decisions can, right?
Right.
It's it's okay,
It
right?
is.
Kids need to feel stability. They need to feel love. They need to feel understood, and a lot of the work that I do is with co-parents, writing parenting plans and helping parents walk through the transition. And something I talk about so much is our children are people and they're having their own lived experience,
Yeah.
right? And it is so hard as a parent to see your child in pain. They're grieving too,
Yeah.
right? I always remind people your children are grieving the loss of what their life looked like,
Yeah.
It doesn't mean their life now is going to be bad or it's going to look bad or be bad or that they're not going to have a full, expansive, like well-adjusted and connected relationship with both their parents. It looks different than the way we thought as parents. And it looks different than what they thought and what some of their friends' lives look like too,
Yep.
right?
Mhm.
But
Yep.
allowing our children a place to express themselves without us feeling like their emotions are a problem that needs to be solved,
Yep.
um, I think is so important during the process because as a parent, it can make your experience so much harder when you're trying to control how your kids are feeling. You're trying to control how your soon to be ex is feeling. And then in the midst of it, you have well meaning people being like, oh, they're getting
Right.
divorced. That cycle
Yeah.
of horribleness, which
Yeah.
is not a technical term and it's certainly not in the DSM,
Uh,
but it is horrible.
yeah.
It's horrible for everybody involved. You can say upright, we're getting a divorce. We're going to
Yeah.
be a family in two homes, whatever words you want to use. Yes, this is a really hard time and we're taking care of our kids,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Totally.
All those things are true
Yeah.
at the
All
same
the things
time, right? We don't have to choose. And I think something I notice is that because we're in a world where we're set up to believe that divorce has to be bad,
Yeah.
that's what we're messaged,
Yeah.
right? It's part of our societal narrative. Oh,
Yeah.
you're getting divorced, you're going to be like this,
Right.
right?
Right.
But really, you get to choose what your divorce looks like,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You get
And
to choose.
yeah, you get to choose. And and I always, I have clients who will say, well, my partner is so difficult and my partner's a narcissist and my partner is XYZ and how can I have a good, how I can't be reasonable when someone else is unreasonable, but you can, and it's not easy, but it is possible. And, this is a conversation I have a lot of like, you can change the dynamic with someone,
Mhm.
and if you act a certain way, then, it is human nature that someone response will be different based on how so if you say, okay, yeah, sure, no problem, and you are kind and agreeable, like things will come back to you, even with the most difficult. These people will always say, like, my partner is difficult, but then of course you get their partner and they're like, well, my partner is difficult. And so, like,
Right.
I mean, it's all about your perspective, and of
Right.
course, everybody is gonna fit. It's like everybody's gonna sort of say that about the other person, and so yeah,
Yeah. And it's easy to focus on those things that are super difficult or activating, whatever, about the person that you're getting
yeah,
divorced from. Well, of course, there's a lot of difficulty, or you wouldn't be getting divorced.
right, exactly, right,
Right.
right,
So, that's true,
yeah,
right? That's accurate. And you did get together and, way back whenever you got together for some sort of a reason.
yeah,
So
yeah.
this person must have some redeeming qualities.
Totally. I always, I talk a lot about that with my clients. It's like, look, you married this person.
Hmm.
You chose to have kids with this person. And so there was some element of you that you trusted that choice. And obviously, like,
Right.
no plan, people don't plan to get divorced. It's not plan A, right? But but things happen and lots of reasons why people get divorced. And that's a whole, but when people kind of can come back to like, okay, this is a person that at one point, and of course people will come back and say, well, I made a horrible decision. But like, that is also like in that time, in that moment, that feels really real. But sometimes I remind my clients of like, what are the positive things about this person? What are the reasons why you chose them as a parent to your kid? And those reasons are
Mhm.
still there and they're going to be a parent to
Yeah.
your kid forever. And so if you have to be willing to change your perspective and sort of see the positive about that, because also for your kids who are half of your co-parent. And so if you can't
Yeah.
really see the good in that, and that can help you get through these things, then it's very hard, and it's very hard to change your perspective when people are so stuck, but it is possible.
Yes.
And it is important because ultimately your kids and you, I mean, it's your piece, it's your, but ultimately like your kids absorb all of it. They are people, like you said, they're not house plants, and
No.
they know, they are aware, and
Oh, yeah.
you
They are
know
more aware than I think most people realize, and it's not their fault, but children report everything.
Oh yeah.
They feel everything. If we're watching them closely, they're going to tell us the right way to go. They
Mhm.
know,
Totally.
right? They know the way. There's a beautiful film called Split. And it talks about, it follows documentary, right? It follows like little kids to teenagers about their parents' divorce. And it honestly, there are parts of it that are so painful to listen to, but they're really teachable moments. And I think it's important that we face these things head on, because when we're two adults sitting, let's say with attorneys, or hopefully not in a courtroom, and we're fighting, 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 the adults, first of all, are acting from emotion, which is a problem, right? Because a lot of the times in a divorce, you're making a business decision, right? Financial decisions.
Yeah, totally.
Divorce money is not the same as regular money because it's super emotional, right?
Totally.
It's not like you're like, I'm going to invest in this, or like, I'm going to buy some stocks. Like, it's not that. Like,
Right.
let's just call it what it is, right?
Totally.
But when the parents are like this and they have their blinders up, like they can't see their kids.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
not because they don't want to, right?
Yeah.
They just can't. And so when they're engaged with professionals who are family focused, and I always encourage people, like, first of all, you can fire your lawyer,
Yeah,
right?
totally.
Right?
Yeah, it's not the be all end all, like, whatever they say, I mean, you ultimately, like, you are in charge of your own journey, like, lots of things, like you were
Mhm.
saying before, like, if you go to the doctor, you don't necessarily have to take everything they say as
Right.
gospel. Like, you and you know your kids, and you ultimately know what's best for you, but you have to be able to, like, tune into that, and there's so much noise that gets in the way of being able to tune
Right.
in.
Right.
And, to your kind of like inner wisdom, everybody has inner wisdom, but so many things get in the way of accessing that.
Right.
And, like, oh, you got to finish this. Oh, this day. Oh, aren't you, don't you want to get what you are entitled to? All of these things, everybody has their perspective and everybody has their lens of what they think is best.
Right.
And no one knows except you. And, like to be able to channel that is so, so important in this process.
Yeah, you just said, and it's so important. It's like, you, if you're talking about like being in a doctor's office, well, you know your kids, right? So really, ideally, you want to be working with a professional or professionals who see you
Yes.
and that you're on a team.
Yes.
Actually can't do their jobs to the best of their ability. And I say this to my own clients, I can't do my job without you. You're the experts on your kids and on your life. I'm bringing my professional expertise with me, but I need your expertise too. And so
Yeah.
if you're with a lawyer or a financial professional or a coach or anybody, consultant of any kind, who's not leaning in to listen to you, and you don't feel heard or you don't feel noticed or understood, it's okay for you, number one, right, to pause.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what to do, you can pause. You can say, "Oh my gosh, I'm having a really hard time.
Yeah.
I'm not
Totally.
sleeping. I'm not eating,
Yeah.
and I need a minute."
Yeah.
And you can pivot and you can
Yeah.
make a change, because if someone's saying, "No, this is what's best," but deep down, that's not best,
Yeah.
nothing is in stone until you put pen to paper,
Yeah.
right? And in certain states, it can be really hard to amend settlements. So I always ask people to like really be sure about what they're signing, but that doesn't always happen.
Well, totally. But ultimately, I mean, nobody is like knocking down your door if you go against your agree, right? I mean,
Right.
like the thing that people also, it's like you are putting this agreement and you're signing pen to paper and this is a legal document, but like nobody is enforcing it unless you or make it an issue or your co-parent makes it an issue. Like if drop off is at 4 o'clock and you drop them off at 5 o'clock and it says 4 o'clock in your agreement, technically you're breaking your agreement, but like I mean, this is, nobody's going to come to your door and be like,
Right.
you're an hour late, and
Right. These things aren't really super enforceable, like you said, in general. So coming to agreements that you can live with in reality,
yes,
really thinking about, you're talking about earlier, we can slow down, we can pause. there's also no one knocking down your door being like, hurry up, you have
Right.
to get this done. I'm not saying stay in the divorce process for longer,
Yeah.
but be thoughtful,
Yeah.
right? Because you can make decisions, choices. It comes up a lot when I'm writing parenting plans and we're doing calendaring, right? There's the regular schedule, there's the holiday schedule, and inevitably the calendar is not going to be your friend.
Yeah.
You're going to end up with several things on one day, and then you don't have the mechanisms to figure this out. And then the kids are being bounced back and forth because of the calendar not lining up with the plans that you made, but that just doesn't work in reality,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
This is an example of asking, people going through divorce don't know to ask the questions, which is why you need the right professionals around you. That when you're rushing, because really you're rushing to get out of the pain,
Right.
because
Exactly.
divorce is painful. We want to escape the pain, the loss, the grief. It's not going to go away when you put pen to paper.
Right.
That's a process, right? The actual divorce and the emotional divorce is not the same thing,
Yeah.
right?
Totally.
The legal divorce. But these are examples of why you do need to slow down. There's so many people that will come post divorce to me and be like, oh my gosh, this isn't working. Like,
Yeah.
why did I do this?
Yeah.
They don't know. It's nobody,
Totally. And they
it's
don't know.
nobody's
And
fault.
yeah. 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 And so much of it is, yeah, it's about trusting yourself and trusting your co-parent, right? That like you guys can work things out if things don't make sense. Ultimately, if the calendar clashes with something happening in real life or things unexpected happen, obviously in life, someone, there's a celebration, there's a someone's sick, like things
Right.
change and like you obviously cannot account for everything in these
No,
agreements. And so it's just to be thoughtful about what to put in and what to leave out and to just, when it comes down to it, having to sort of sit with a lot of discomfort of the unknown. Like,
yes.
we're not going to be able to plan this. We don't know this yet. We don't know what kind of kids our kids are going to be, depending on obviously how, things change regardless. So, like,
Yep.
trusting that you can handle the things that are going to come down the road and, and it might not work out the way that you would want them to. And you have to
Right.
think about like what is your attachment to whatever outcome it is and really kind of try to let go of that because it really could be moot. I mean, you could want things a certain way, your
Yeah.
ex would want things another way, and like your kid wants things another way. And ultimately, like the tendency to control is going to work against your kid ultimately. I mean, I remember hearing this story in this training that I was at about like a football team and mom wanted kid to sign up on this team and dad wanted kid on another team and they ended up signing the kid up for both teams because technically it was not technically that was technically okay because it was like on mom's time and on dad's time. And then the kid is on two different teams, like not being like a cohesive team, on either team. And then the teams ended up in the playoffs each other
Oh
playing each,
no.
and the kid couldn't play on either team because like he was on both teams. And so like who wins in that scenario, right? Like like it's so sad. It's like
That is so sad.
it's like so heartbreaking. Like, mom, like let just like like it's okay. Like, what is this is why people need like not therapy or coaching or something to help you understand what attachment, what it is to team A on this, like what it is. And most of the
Right.
time it's just about control. And if it's not about control, if it's about being on this team because this is your team legacy and your whole family has been on this team and this is the team, it's like, okay, that's valid. That's totally valid. And maybe some things are different now. Maybe there are other priorities and maybe you need some help to work through that. And that's all
Oh yeah.
fine. But like ultimately, like let kid play on team B, like let kid play on team A.
Right.
Like it really is okay. And
Yeah, and it can be very hard in those moments to really zoom out, right? To take like a wide angle lens to be like, we're talking about a sports team. It's okay. A lot of times it can be very hard because if we let go of a choice, there's something that we want, right? Or figuring out we're attached to it for. A lot of people have trouble doing this because it feels like it's giving in to their other parent, even though
Totally.
it's actually in the best interest of the child.
Totally.
This is of such critical importance, right? Well, if you let go of that and you're doing what's good for your kid, it's not you doing your ex a favor. And by the way, your ex spouse is your child's other parent.
Yeah, like it is
Sometimes don't
okay.
call them your ex spouse. Call them, such and such as dad or mom or whatever, because
Language is really important.
yes,
Co-parent it, so and so's dad, mom, like even the language, right? Ex spouse, it's just like combative language. Like this is my ex. I want nothing to do with my ex.
right.
You're still in a business together, like you said. You are
Yep.
still, you're running a business of raising your kids,
Yes.
and if you share custody, physical and legal custody, meaning decision making and physical time, you're running a business. And so what is best for the business, and that is the thing that needs to really be thought about. And obviously, like you might disagree on the thing, and people will say, like, "Yeah, of course I want what's best for my kids. Yeah, of course I want what's best for my kids." But what I think is the best thing, and what I think is the best thing, and so like the removal of the attachment to the outcome is like really important. And this is also where I think professionals get like, I'm sure you have clients where, and I'd be curious, if you are working on co-parenting agreements and they have even like therapists or coaches that are sort of telling them, lawyers, telling them, you are entitled to this. Don't walk away from this. This is important to you.
Oh yeah.
You need to set this boundary that you are owed this, that your partner did X, Y, Z. And like, I wonder if like that can work against the process of
1,000%. It's interesting because a lot of times I will say to people, if I'm doing a co-mediation or in a collaborative divorce team, that I really ask for releases to speak to people's therapists, coaches, whatever, because a lot of times these thirds, right, like a third party, can actually derail the process if they're also not informed of the process and how the process actually works, right? Because again, this is like, even though they're a professional and they might not know about this or how it works or what people are entitled to. And in your specific case, it could be very different than something that they think
totally,
you should get, right? Like the way it works in every state is different too, right? All of these things add up. I always say to clients, like working through a divorce, everything has to link together, right? And at the end, it has to like fit together really neatly. And sometimes it can be really difficult to get there. Sometimes it's easier to get there, but it all has to work together. And when there's another party, it's like, oh, I have the last piece of the puzzle. And then suddenly it's gone because somebody is giving you advice that is completely unrealistic. And they may not understand. They maybe say you should be entitled to more support, but maybe they don't realize that your child's other parent is agreeing to pay for all these other expenses that they don't know about, and they're not looking at the settlement in its entirety.
totally,
Right. And I don't believe that any people, whether professionals for the most part, family, whatever, are not well intentioned. They're ill informed and they
yeah,
too are acting from emotion, right? You could be going to a best friend, you could be going to a parent, a sibling, and they feel very protective of you, understandably so.
totally.
And put your blinders up.
Yeah, yeah,
Walk through your next steps and envision really what you want your post-divorce life to look like, because you're going to be out of your divorce much longer than you're in your divorce.
totally,
What you do during your divorce is setting up your post-divorce life,
yeah, totally, totally.
right? I mean, you can't control everything, but you certainly can control yourself.
Yeah,
You can control the way you act,
yeah,
the way you react.
yeah,
And we all know, even if you can't get through all the fog, like we all know when we're like really not doing well. You can feel it. You're frenetic. Like you're not eating, you're not sleeping, like you're losing things. The people are like, I can't find my keys, but they're like holding them,
yeah,
all these things. It's like, these are the times where you're like, I need to stop.
yeah,
I need to tune out the noise.
yeah,
It could be so simple as literally going outside and getting some fresh air and trying to just take a breath.
yeah.
I have a lot of clients that are like, I don't think I ate all day. I'm like, you need to eat.
Yeah, you just can't. I
Like,
mean, you just cannot make decisions. Yeah, yeah,
like you
totally.
just need food. Maybe you just need to sit down and like, have you had water? And
Yeah,
these things may seem so basic, but when you're in a crisis, they're not like you're not thinking of them.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. And like everybody needs support, it's just like it's okay, right? To like have someone be like, yeah, did you eat? And just like take a minute and and like check in. Yeah. It's it's so, so important. And people just otherwise they just don't make decisions that are, in the best interest of their kids, which is ultimately, of course, I mean, no,
Uh-huh.
almost no decision is more important than
1,000%.
your kids having peace, and oh my
Right.
gosh, a friend of mine went through her parents' horrible divorce when, we were kids, we were the same age. And she just sent me a photo of her parents at a dinner table at her nephew's graduation. She said, "This is their nephew's in between. Their parents are on that other side." She said, "This is the closest my parents have been in 35 years."
Wow.
I mean, it's just yeah, and that is, I mean, listen, I up to hurt and resentment and all that and trauma and all of that is super valid, of course, right?
Uh,
And like she has kids, she has nieces and nephews, and their grandparents can't be at their events without my friend and her sister worrying about, oh, it's my, it's like this is not, like you're setting your kids up for healthy, confident, like adulting basically. I mean, to be like healthy, well-rounded kids by like taking care
yeah.
of your own stuff and being amicable and like being the co-parent that you want to have. Like there's enough to worry about without my friend having to worry of like where her parents are sitting a 30-year ago divorce
Oh
at her.
my gosh. Yeah, that also is like, is that the way? And I'll say this, like, this is a choice and this is preventable.
Totally. It's
You like
so
you can choose.
you can
You
choose.
can choose to say, I will not be part of this dynamic. I will not put my kids through this. I will not.
Yes. Yes. I
No
will
matter
I
what
will
anyone else is doing.
right, no matter what, right? I will say hi. I will be friendly. I
Right?
will I
Right?
will be supportive. I will talk up my co-parent. I will say like I hope you have a great time there, at your mom's or your dad's. I hope, I can't wait to hear about your weekend. Like like
Yeah.
you can do all that. It's not easy, but it is possible. And it's just, people get into so, they just, yeah, and legal battles and all of this stuff that is like, I mean, truly, even like what kids, school activity, it's just that is not as important as your kids feeling safe and loved. And they can't do that if you are at a war, if you're having a war
Literally a war. And for honestly, for what? Your
for,
time and energy are precious. I would way rather be sitting at an event for my children than fighting with somebody.
exactly.
I get it. I understand it. And there's such long-term damage that's done to your children.
Yeah.
Because when your kids are adults, they're going to look back on that
Right.
time. You get to choose now, how that's going to look for them.
Yeah, you don't get a do-over in childhood. You get one
No,
childhood,
and you don't get a
one
divorce do-over either. So
right.
if you're
You
getting
know,
divorced and you're in a transition, and even if you're in the middle and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm listening to this and I realize like I made bad choices. Guess what? You don't have to keep making bad choices.
totally.
You can
And
choose.
right. And also like whatever your agreement, again, like nobody is
No,
like nothing is enforceable. Like, and you can choose whether to make a big deal out of something. You can choose to be flexible. You can choose to be accommodating. You can choose to be agreeable. Like you can choose. You have the power to choose. I read my son this book, The Power to Choose, and like
yes,
Danny, the superhero Danny, his superpower is the power to choose. And
yeah,
we all have the superpower. And like sometimes it
yes,
is a superpower. Like sometimes it just is a superpower because it feels so not like that, but it is. And
yeah,
if somebody, and you can't control if somebody's punching you, it feels like I can't control. Of course, I'm going to punch back, but like, sure, you can make that choice or you can make the choice not to. And
right,
I think like the intentionality behind the choice is the important piece, but less than the actual choice itself, right? It's like,
yeah,
are we fully intentional about how you're going to react to the thing coming your way that you can't control,
right.
So
1,000,000,000% choose better. You can
Yeah,
do better. You can
totally.
be thoughtful.
Yeah,
You can put your kids first, even if
yeah,
you haven't before. Not to sound cheesy, but it's not too late to
totally.
change.
Yeah,
Make a change now. Make one decision today that's going to be better
yeah,
than it was before. You won't regret those decisions, the ones that are doing right by your kids, even if in the moment it feels really tough.
yeah.
You won't
And
regret
even
it.
if you feel like, yeah,
Yeah.
even if you feel like you're giving in, I mean, really, it's human nature to want to accommodate when someone is being accommodating. I tell this to my clients all the time, and I always say, like, look, if like you had to reschedule, and I was like, no, like I don't have anything. I'm never flexible. No
Right.
way. This is our time. We cannot reschedule. And then I come to you and I'm like, hey, something came up. You'd be like, no. But if I'm like, yeah, of course, no problem. The next time,
Right.
you're like, yeah, sure, no problem. Like and of course with a co-parent, like there's some emotional history. There's lots of stuff
Oh,
that,
yeah.
but that's still the case. It's still human nature at the end of the day
Mhm.
to to be reciprocal, and like no one wants to like be the asshole that isn't that that's just difficult,
Right.
and so it's like you get what you put, and it's tough, but that's why support is important, and someone who understands the process, and like what you were saying before about sometimes third
Yes.
parties are working against, it's like you got to have support that understands the process and that
Oh, yeah.
like see a bigger picture rather than just like, yeah, you're right, I love you, you're the best, you could do no wrong. It's like that is actually not helpful in the
Not
process.
at all, because there's 2 parties in every divorce,
Exactly.
right? So, there's a bad or a toxic or an unhealthy cycle of communication that has gone on, right? And so if somebody's saying to you, you have no part in this. Well, everybody has some part in it.
Yeah.
That's okay. You're moving forward. You're moving to another chapter of your life. And if you can't do it for yourself, honestly, do it for your kids. Even if you're so angry.
Yeah.
I mean, what would you say, like, if your kids came to you and they were going through a divorce and asking these questions? Like,
Yeah.
you would tell them to take care of their kids, because if you ask kids, like in that film Split, if you ask them, they know everything. They see it. Even when parents are like, "Oh, we're not yelling," I'm like, "It doesn't matter."
Yeah, totally. There's a vibe, there's a tension, it affects their nervous system, it affects their ability to regulate, I mean,
Mhm.
other parents all know that kids pick up things. I mean, how many times have you like been all of a sudden randomly your kid is going to say something totally random that you said 6 months ago, and you're like, what?
Yeah,
About nothing, it's like everybody, and so that, but it's hard to remember. You think that they're just not picking things up, but yeah.
they know.
Totally. Yeah. 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 And then ultimately, like you feel more when you do this, I notice that like my client feel more confident in their own ability to be able to regulate and to also make decisions. It's just like it's a confidence builder just on for themselves,
Yeah,
to be able to do this and to be like, okay, like I can be a present parent and, I can like it's that, do right by myself, basically,
yeah, and it takes practice, right? It does feel uncomfortable at first to do that,
Yeah.
but the more and more you do it, you do get better at it.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
how you feel in the divorce and how you feel after the divorce, people can't imagine, the after part. Does not say the after part's perfect and that you don't have really hard moments, because life can be really hard, but there are really good things, but you have to be willing to allow them and know that you can't know when you're in it that it's not gonna feel like this forever. But to go back to what you said when we first started talking, you're looking for people that are gonna tell you it is good. There is another side to this. It
Totally.
won't be this way forever,
Yeah.
right?
Totally.
It really won't. Nothing stays the same anyways.
Nothing is. Yeah, nothing is, right? And so yeah, it's a hard, but it's you have to go through it, and yes, there is another side, and there are lots of silver linings, and it is really important to talk about those things so that right, so that divorce is not just seen as this tragedy, and
Mhm.
like there are many good things to come from it, just like every marriage is not great, obviously, so
Right.
yeah.
Right. There's always going to be something else, whether you're staying married, whether you're getting divorced. Life will keep changing. Your kids will keep growing. Even when you think that you can't like go one step further, I guarantee that you will.
Yeah, totally.
Guarantee that you will.
Yeah. Yeah. So is there anything that you want to leave, anything else that we haven't
Yeah, a little tidbit. You know, I always just say to ask questions.
Yeah,
Ask questions when you're unsure, if you
totally.
need help, if you don't like something, if you need a break.
Yeah.
Ask questions, ask for help, accept help.
Yep.
There is no one size fits all
Yep.
in a divorce,
Yep.
right? So I would say to people, even if like your best friend, sisters, whatever, gives you the name of somebody, you're like, this is the best person. It might not be your person,
Totally.
or like to be your lawyer, or to be your mediator, or your therapist, or whatever.
Totally.
Ask more. It matters. And you have agency.
Yeah.
Agency. Like, don't
Totally.
forget that you have agency. You can choose continually. Every day you can have a really bad day, make a really bad decision. Even your kids, you could be like, oh my gosh, it was like a really hard day today. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, and I'm going to do better tomorrow.
Yeah.
All these things add up. Every little tiny thing adds up to be something bigger. So you have agency. You
Yeah.
can make choices, and you can start again.
Yes.
Something's not working. So
Totally.
that's not one tidbit. That's a lot of tidbits. But obviously, I just don't want anybody to feel alone because
No,
it's
it's so
a very
important.
isolating experience.
Yeah, totally. No, it's so important. Yeah, for sure. And it's so great that, you help people navigate these kinds of things because again, yeah, it's like it's so, I always feel like so grateful for divorce professionals that really are helping people,
Yeah.
through this process and helping to destigmatize it because it's the life event, like other life events. And it is not the end of the world and you can do it well and you can have a really great
Yeah.
happy life and your kids can too and and it's yeah it is okay. So thank you so much, Nora, for your time and your wisdom. And if anybody needs co-parenting coaching or mediation, how might they find you?
They could go to my website, noramarcus.com. I'm so happy to be here today. I'm happy to talk to like-minded people who mean it and who really care about the people that come into their office.
Yes, totally. Yes.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming. This has been Talk Relationship to Me, produced by Peach Island Productions. I'm Dr. Elana Hoffman. Do you have a question about relationships? I'd love to hear from you. You can go to my website, dralanahoffman.com, and click contact, or find me on Instagram at dr.alanahoffman. You can find everything you need, including more about today's episode, in the show description. And if you have questions or comments about today's episode or anything else, I would love to hear from you. You can inspire a podcast topic. So until next time, thank you so much for listening.